It is day 5 of Hamstring Havoc, and we have covered priming your nerves, checking in with your pelvis and your pelvic tilt, and plugging your thigh bones into your pelvis properly. We have covered stretching along the length of the muscle fibers. We have of your hamstrings, and we have covered reciprocal inhibition, which is turning on the front of your body to relax the back of your body. We've covered using weight to facilitate that lengthening, both actively from standing and passively from seated. Now, what we're going to talk about is going sort of across the muscle fibers. So, let me see if I see anything in here that's a good example. Yeah, let me use this. It's not exactly the same, but we can use it. So I'm going to scoot on forward here. Here are your muscle fibers, right? And these muscle fibers, they go up and down this way. Look at this, up and down, right? Top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, all the way across the muscle. Okay? So imagine this is just a piece of your hamstring. More of it's up in the bottom and more of it's down below, or top and bottom, okay? And this is just a piece. Okay, you can stretch the length, but what we're wanting to do here is we're wanting to stretch across, boom, like that, like strumming across the fibers. That's what we're trying to do now with your hamstring fibers, across the fibers. Okay, so all of these things, most of these things at any rate, I'll say to some degree, you can do standing or you can do seated. So looking at this real quick, you can cross your ankle, hinge, bend your knees as much as you need to, and fold, right? But that's kind of hard for people, especially if they're hanging out up here. However, it's easy to do, right? You can cross your ankle, stick your butt back, and get a hamstring stretch while you're at the bank or at a stand-up desk working. So it's accessible, but for a lot of people, there's some real limitations because of hip hinging. So I like to do a lot of this from seated. So what we're going to do is going to one leg out, cross the ankle over, one ankle over the other, put as much of a bend in your knees as you need to in order to take enough tension out of the hamstrings that you can get your body from behind the hip to in front of the hip. And then, same thing as always, support as much as you need to. Right? Sit here on the phone if you really wanted to. Okay, so you bend as much as you need to at the knee, you cross one ankle over the other, and then you chill out. So this starts getting into your IT band and the outer hip, and into the quadratus lumborum, which is in your back. It's across your low back. And you stay there and you breathe. You can come up and go down, all right? Kind of flossing that nerve if you want to while you're here. Or you can just stay. And depending on the day and how tight your IT band is, it can be pretty gnarly. But you're starting to get across the fibers of your hamstring. That's why it hits the IT band, is because you're expanding laterally in those muscle fibers, not just along the length of the muscle fibers. The next one is one leg long, one leg over. And again, now you're starting to get across the muscle fibers here. Now for this seated twist, there's some finer points This bottom leg is active, flexed, flointed, or pointed. It does not matter, but you want the top of your leg working so that the back of your leg is lengthening. And then over here on this leg, it is not my thigh. There's not the top of my thigh that is into my chest here. It is actually slightly rotated so that the inner thigh is what is against my chest. A lot of people are back here with it. It's hard to get connection between the body and the thigh. So if that's you, the first order of business is to use your arms and to pull yourself in and try to find a neutral spine. And that just might be where you stay. And if that's the case, that's fine. Totally fine. No problem whatsoever. If you are getting the stretch, then that is the whole point of it. It doesn't matter what it looks like. If you're getting the stretch back here, across the hamstring and a little bit along the hamstring into the outer hip, great. If you need to be up here in order to get that, also great. You are not a better person because you're forward, and you're not a worse person because you're backward. As long as you're getting the stretch, you're great. You're fantastic. You can do this also from laying down. Inner thigh to chest. Leg long or leg planted. It doesn't matter which. If it turns out that it is your outer hips that are very tight, and you'll start to begin to feel that out in the last two shapes that we just did. If that's the case, then after you have done this shape, the next thing that you're going to want to try is to take the outside of your leg and start to let it drop down to the ground. We're not in a figure four. A figure four looks like opening the knee as wide as possible, which is also a strategy that we will get to, but that's not what we're doing right now. Right now, we're squeezing your inner thighs up here tight and dropping the knee forward so that this top knee is right above the bottom knee, and then you fold forward from there, and it continues to stretch the outer hips while you're getting some elongation through the back of the leg. And as you're dropping your chest down, and supporting your upper body as much as you need to. I'm exaggerating how much I'm supporting by putting the props up really high for what I personally need. But what I see oftentimes as I teach is that I make these suggestions to people to put the props up as high as I'm showing you, and they choose to not use the props. There's a lot of stigma in classes, I understand that, against using the props because this quote unquote ideal that you should be able to do it without, but you are, pun intended, hamstringing yourself if you don't use the props the way that I'm showing you to use the props, even if that looks extremely remedial. Okay, so use the props. This was day 5, and we're just getting into this idea of stretching across the fibers of your hamstrings, that latitudinal stretching for day 5. Next is day 6.